here, and we'll go live here. All right. Hello, everyone. Happy November 1st. We're in classroom 8 with Dee McCaffrey, Janet Lee, and Elise Rathke. So we are exploring healthy, happy holidays and nutrition with these, what they call themselves, nutrition besties. Woo! Right? Yeah. So I'll let you all explain that, and we'll get to know each and every one of our amazing nutrition instructors here at Southwest Institute of Healing Arts, starting with Elise. All right, so yeah, go ahead and have a seat. And everyone, as you're attending, you can type in your questions, and I will read them aloud for our instructors to answer.
Perfect.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name is Elise Rathke, and I am a registered dietitian. And I've also taken the 200-hour holistic nutrition program here at SWIHA. And after I completed the program here, I was invited to start teaching on the staff, which I was super excited about and so honored to be given that opportunity. So I've been here since the end of 2012, beginning of 2013. And I've taught a bunch of the classes over the years, but the class that I focus on now is the Principles of Conscious Eating class in the program.
Awesome.
Yay.
And I'm Janet Lee. I was hired to teach the nutrition coaching class. And then I went back and took the entire 200-hour because it's the 251 class is at the end and we pull everything together. So it was like logical that I should know what's going on in the other. So I was happy to do that. I did the whole 200-hour, and then, as many of you know, I completed the 755 about a year and a half ago. And so I came on board, met Dee right after that, and so we call ourselves the Nutrition Besties, which Elise just called us one day. We had a nutrition meeting, actually a whole staff meeting, and we were the nutrition, and we have been meeting several times a year. We meet probably once a quarter or so, and we just talk about life and teaching and all of that. So we've been good friends.
Where do y'all meet?
Favorite
restaurants?
Usually favorite restaurants.
I bet food's involved.
Some kind of plant-based or healthy place. And then a little over a year ago, I became an online advisor for the holistic nutrition program. So
Yay.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yay. My name is Dee McCaffrey, and I came here at 2013. The first class I taught here was Comparative Dietary Systems, which is a wonderful class that gives a whole overview of different current dietary theories, everything from ancient Ayurveda to current modern things like paleo and ketogenic diets. So, and then I started teaching more of the classes. I teach the Introduction to Holistic Nutrition and also the macro and micronutrient class. And I'm excited to be here too.
Yay. And you did a recent Facebook Live, which was the cutting out the sugar, right? The no sugar challenge.
I did, yes.
Guess what? I haven't drank coffee creamer since.
Woo!
I know, yay.
Congratulations. I know that's not
tough.
easy to cut out something you're really accustomed to using and something that you like the taste of.
Well, just knowing that there's healthy replacements like honey and almond milk, I'm like totally past it and in love with it. So thank you.
Nice.
There's almost always a healthy substitute for something, which is so cool. So once you
Right.
start digging into this and learning, it's not so much that you have to give up something, but just replace it with something healthier.
Yeah. So we'll let you get right into it. I know we wanted to explore some healthy food ideas for the holidays, because now that we're past Halloween with all the packaged wrappers and candies, we can focus more on family, friends, and food, right? Because there's always food involved with the festivities and the holidays. So what's some ideas or ways that you can make the holidays healthy and enjoyable for everyone?
Sure. Well, I tend to focus on mindful eating, as I mentioned. That's my favorite class to teach. And it's the way that I live. And so I love to share that message with everybody. And the neat thing about mindful eating is that all foods fit. And yes, we focus on healthy foods, But we know that during the holidays, there are going to be some opportunities to have some foods that may not be the healthiest. And what I encourage people to do is to have little bits of the foods that may not be so healthy. You don't want to deprive yourself of anything. We want to be participating with our family and friends. That's an important part of the holidays. And what I think has happened over the years in our culture and our society is that we've gotten away from community. And food and eating together, sharing the cooking process, the shopping process is a beautiful thing to do together. It's a really great bonding experience. And I think that we've gotten away from that with all of the fast food, and people are so busy multitasking. So I encourage people to make the holidays, starting with that, get together with your friends and family and just do the whole thing. Plan your shopping, plan your cooking, maybe prepare your meals together. And then when you are eating, enjoy every little bit of it. Don't beat yourself up over eating something that may not be such a healthy choice. Just know that you can enjoy a few bites and a small bit and get back on track the next day.
Great advice.
I love that advice.
Love the idea of you're not giving up anything. So I teach the raw food class here on campus, and we talk about how can you get more color, and you can do that in the holidays. So we're going into the next 4 months that can be a pretty slippery slope for people. I think having some kind of system in place that works for you so that you get back on track, but eat from the rainbow, eat lots of color. We have beautiful color here, and add that to the meal. So I'm about adding, not taking away. We don't want to feel that deprivation, right?
Absolutely.
And also, I think as humans, if you tell me I can't have it, I want 3 times more. Can anybody relate,
That's
right?
so true.
So instead, let's love ourselves and ourselves with healthy food that's going to feed us back. Of course, in the raw class, because that's what food that hasn't been cooked is about. It's about raising your vibration, raising your outlook. When you take away sugar, which is totally processed, it lowers our vibration. We can all agree that when we eat sugar, we're not at our best. Can we agree to that?
Agreed.
So let's eat foods that are live. So when you're going to the holiday, there's a lot more cooked food. Granted, I probably eat more cooked food during this time of the year than I do all year long. I probably eat more of it in the next 4 months than I have all year because it's available. But can we add to that? So can I have something live on the side with it? Of course we can, for color, for texture, and make it fun. Food should be fun. The holidays are about getting together. And so I'm all about, let's bring in the foods we love. Love the idea of a little bit here and there, but let's bring in some other foods. And also let's take a recipe and make it new. This is 2018, right? We're going into 19. And as you said earlier, every food can be converted, we say, into something healthier. And if you want to know how to do that, come to the school and we'll teach you, because that's what we do best.
Yeah, and to tag on that, the conversion of using healthier ingredients to make some of your favorite treats. At SWIHA, we have adopted an acronym that is SOUL, which we say soul, that's what it spells out, but it stands for seasonal, organic, unprocessed, and local. And what we try to do, and we were talking before we started the webinar just amongst ourselves and saying that the first Thanksgiving dinner was soul. It was seasonal, it was organic, unprocessed, and locally produced. And if we take a typical Thanksgiving meal, we know there's a lot of vegetables in it. There's a turkey, there's maybe some stuffing, but we can do all of that organically. We can do it unprocessed. If possible, it'll be in season. Most of the things that we do eat at the holidays are seasonal. That's what makes the holidays special.
Sure.
We have specific squashes and cranberries and those types of things that are very seasonal. And then converting. I mean, my favorite thing to make at the holidays is pumpkin pie, because that was, in the old days when I ate a lot of sugar, that was my favorite holiday pie. But now I make it all healthy, organic, a whole grain crust or a nut crust. I use coconut milk instead of evaporated milk, and I use an organic whole sugar or a coconut sugar instead of refined white sugar. And my holiday guests never can tell the difference. It's a healthy pie, they just love it. And I just keep it a secret.
Some things are best left.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Any questions?
No, I mean, we have some comments. I mean, Robbie Waller says these classes can't start soon enough, which I fully agree with that. Just a bunch of hearts. So no questions yet.
Feeling the love.
Yeah, definitely. So,
Awesome.
So what I was just going to say that, what we do if you're out there listening, and it can be really, really stressful for the holidays.
Yep.
I mean, either it is because of something happened in the past, or you're already starting to think, holy cow, where did October go? It's now November. And there's a lot of expectation around the holiday. So maybe taking a moment, even over the next couple of days or this week, and looking at what are your stress points and how could you combat those or have a plan in place, just like we plan. A lot of people say to me, oh my gosh, I can't go raw, it's way too hard. And I say, but our health is so super important that if we don't plan, just like in business, we have to plan for success. With our food, we must plan. And so it's not anything harder. It's just taking a moment. Back to the mindfulness.
Yeah.
It really weaves through all of it. It's not about being perfect. It's about being happy. And I think I just heard a quote recently that said, how do we get self-confidence? We get self-confidence by feeling good about the choices that we make. And it's been resonating actually with me in my brain for 3 days. Because it really is, at the end of the day, when we say, I did really well today. I didn't eat 3 of these, I ate 1 where I might have been passed, or I made a healthy choice. That builds confidence. And so here at the school is a tribe. We call ourselves a tribe. When you're here, it's about supporting each other on our journey. And so I'm not sure exactly where I'm going with that, but somebody needed to hear that. And it's about being conscious and what kind of holiday do you want to have? Right? Tonight's the last night of the raw class. We end the 5th week tonight, and we'll have a conversation about that. I always end the class that way of, you just learned a lot in the last 5 weeks. You've made amazing meals in the last 5 weeks. And how can we continue that in our life? Do you have to be 100% raw? Absolutely not. But you must be somewhere in there. Studies show 51% or more will literally slow down the process of the white blood cells, right? This leukocytosis happens. And so the body doesn't have to work so hard. So anyway, think about how you can do that and plan.
And I will piggyback off of that lovely comment, because thinking about what Janet said about stress, so often where we go to cope with stress is by using food.
Sure.
And one of the things we focus primarily on in the mindful eating class or the conscious eating class is how to cope with stress without using food. So think about yourself, think about your own life. And when you're feeling sad or lonely or bored or even happy, what do you use to cope with that emotion? And I would bet that for most of us, we turn to some sort of food. And the thing about that when we do that is that we don't usually turn to a plate of broccoli when we're feeling stressed out. We turn to something, a comfort food, which might be a plate of brownies or a bowl of ice cream or something like that. So I encourage everybody to start looking at, as Janet said, what are your stressors? And then getting some tools in place, some different ways that you can cope with those stressors, because they're going to come up. And the next few months are heavy. People work, people have family, school. There's a lot going on. And oftentimes we feel like we need to please a lot of people during this time with family. But really look at what you do typically to cope with stress. And I invite you to start finding some ways to cope with that stress in ways other than using food.
And I'm going to tag on that too.
See how we do as besties?
You guys are besties.
You should see our lunches.
I can only imagine. Look what I brought.
Out of the 3 of us, I think I'm more the science mind.
You are.
Of
You are.
That's why we love you so much.
That's why we're such a
One of
great
the
team,
reasons.
because we have a great balance of our talents and our abilities and gifts. But when you said about how we don't go for a plate of broccoli when we're stressed, there actually was a Princeton study that was titled that. It was was, it said, why are people not addicted to broccoli? And the study was actually done to demonstrate how sugar is more addictive than cocaine or other seriously addictive drugs. And the reason for that is it goes to the same pleasure centers in the brain, but broccoli doesn't do that. So, so when people are stressed, they're wanting an alteration of their body sensations, or they want something to give them comfort and pleasure or a high feeling. Yeah, but unfortunately, there's always the letdown on that, or there is the tolerance level that happens when one hit of sugar is not enough. You have to have another one and another one and another one. And so that's where it becomes addictive. But also when we talk about stress, see, stress creates all these hormones in our body. Our bodies are equipped to deal with stress, but it requires a lot of hormonal shifts and increase of blood sugar levels and insulin levels, which all require more nutrients to be able to create all of that in our bodies. So basically what stress does is it puts more stress on our body when you eat deficient food, because now you don't have the nutrients that you need to deal with the stress in the first place. But kind of like a little catch-22 that happens. So when we're, some of our nutrition classes focus on stress and how and where the nutritional piece comes in, because we need those B vitamins and vitamin C and the minerals, magnesium and calcium, that are always deficient in sugary foods. So if we keep putting those into our body when we're under stress, it's like we never catch up. And that's why people crash. Usually at the end of the holidays, people are feeling crappy. Because they're depleted, by that time, after several months of doing that. So,
and if
get some salads in, or some smoothies or something while you're going through the holidays, because that just helps keep you balanced.
That's a great idea. I think adding in, if you're out and about shopping, just grab a smoothie, or a juice, right? And drink that. And that goes so fast into your cells. It's the fastest delivery system. And so you're just like, oh, okay, I feel different. And I think even sometimes feeling that contrast, like, okay, I'm back, right? And again, it's coming back. We talk about that in the coaching class. So what I love about holistic nutrition is we look at all of this. It's not just about the food, yet it's so much about the food, right? And how we deal with it. As women, we deal with it. Men do too, but we have our baggage with it. And, all the things we've been talking about. But we look at stress and lifestyle and, are you eliminating? Are you getting the fiber? And how are you relating to food, and how are you relating to people? It might be that you're eating crappy all day, and then you come home and you want to beat the dog and you don't care about your husband, right? And it's crazy, but we can all stop and think, when I've had too much sugar, when I've eaten processed, maybe you're traveling. Traveling can be challenging. And you come home and you want to kiss the ground of your house because you're so happy you're home. But why that is not only because the people there and routine, but I think it's because we all can say, I can get back into my routine. At least that's how I feel.
Absolutely.
Right? I just came back from a trip and I did the best I could. I made some really not so good decisions, right? So I forgave myself.
Good.
And moved on, and made some good decisions too. But contrast is always important. So anyway, I love holistic nutrition approach.
I do too.
Because it's really is mind, body, spirit. It's not just lip service.
Right. Yeah. And it's, as you said, Jenna, it's not just the food, it's everything. It's we look at water intake, we look at how much sleep do we get, because what we know about sleep is that if we're not getting enough sleep, it can affect a couple of hormones that affect our appetite. There's a hormone that will increase when we don't get enough sleep that causes our appetite to really never turn off. And the hormone that does allow our appetite to feel satiated, that is not available. So, looking at sleep, it really affects the choices that we make and how we feel and how we show up. And
we make poor choices when we're tired.
We do.
Right?
We do.
We're stressed.
It's really a vicious cycle. And again, when we use food to cope with whatever that emotion is, and emotions are good, you guys. We all have emotions, and we need them. That's what gets us up in the morning and keeps us going. However, if we're using something like a food to deal with it, it's like a Band-Aid, and that situation might be just tempered a little bit for the time being, but oftentimes then what happens is then we do start beating ourselves up for eating that whole plate of brownies or whatever it is, and then that problem or that issue hasn't gone away. So looking at ways to deal with stressors.
And we have Nani Colorado on here who said, I learned how to control my own emotional eating patterns thanks to what I'm learning at SWIHA.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm still a work in progress, of course, but I'm more confident now than I was months ago. So
Awesome.
it shows that, you know,
That's great.
it really does work.
Mhm.
We're all a work in progress.
Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely.
every
Sure.
single day is different.
Daily.
Absolutely.
Every single
And
day
as
is
you,
different.
each decade of your life changes.
Yeah, that's
Right, so
Yeah.
there's a class on the online program that's amazing. It's called Nutrition Through the Life Cycles.
Yeah.
And so it starts with before you're even into coming to the world, all the way to old age, and it kind of takes it in 10-year increments.
Yeah.
Fabulous class. What are the nutritional needs at each age? So just about the time you think you have it, you change pages, right? And you're like, and you feel like you have to start over, but you bring all that knowledge, and it's an experiment. Would you agree? It's like,
Oh,
I
yeah.
did that well, I didn't do that,
Yeah.
you know, and I many times in class will say, for my body right now, and then I'll say, because those words would not have come out of my mouth 2 decades ago.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
for myself, right? Because
For my
that's
body right
really
now.
true for me. And in the food class, I'll tell, you know, they're always asking, what do you eat and this and that, and I'll share. And it sounds like crazy. But this didn't happen overnight, right? I've been living this
Right.
lifestyle for 11 years. I made a lot of mistakes, and you figure out. So I think
Yeah.
you can identify with that as well, right? It's just
Absolutely.
continue to changes.
Mhm.
We don't get older, we just get better.
Yeah, and I just wanted to read these comments too about the grapefruit. Diffused grapefruit essential oil
Oh,
is
okay.
on here.
Yeah, okay.
And then Nani said, she's actually in your class, Dee. Nani, I like to rub in some grapefruit oil after I've dry brushed. So did y'all talk about grapefruit for a moment?
No?
Okay, well they are. Well, they are on here.
Okay,
Carol,
okay.
Carol and Nani are talking about grapefruit.
Oh, in your class
And
last
then-
week? Oh, okay.
Okay,
Yeah,
and
okay.
then Soliel says sleep is life, and I fully agree.
Yeah.
I know you believe in a lot of sleep.
You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I go to bed early. I can't function without
Good
lots
girl.
of sleep.
That's
And
right,
then,
you have a little word on that one.
Robbie Waller shared with us, my dad and I have been on keto for about a month now. He has Alzheimer's, dementia, and Parkinson's.
Mm.
We are trying this lifestyle due to what I've researched about its effects on Alzheimer's patients. I'm studying on fitness nutrition. I know you mentioned keto a little bit in the beginning. How much do you cover of this particular course on the keto lifestyle topics surrounding this?
Yeah, and you also do nutrition in the mind, which you did a fabulous class, a job in that class, so.
Yes, we have, in the 200-hour program, we do have that overview course, dietary systems. So we don't spend a whole lot of time on a lot of, there's a lot of different ones, but we give everyone the basics of what they need to know. And then if you want to learn more, we do have like in-class activities where we can break off into groups, and then a group could go and look more into a particular dietary system. The ketogenic is really big right now. It's trendy. I always have concerns when something's trendy,
Right?
because I need to look at it from a science perspective as well as a longevity perspective. And while ketogenic has been around since about the 40s for epilepsy for children, in terms of using it as a weight loss diet or a diet for things like Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, we're still really new in any type of clinical trial or anything like that. We don't really have long-term studies on that. So right now we just have to say that in short term, it seems to be helping people. But we're kind of still out there. The jury is out on it. We don't know for sure. And also we look at other things in that class too. We look at cultural beliefs. We look at blood types. We look at other, biochemical things that are going on in a person. And what we're learning is how we need to tailor dietary approaches to the individual person, and not just have a blanket diet for any particular condition or person. So that's the beauty of that class, I think, because it gives everyone, like I always tell them at the beginning, what you're getting in this class is a whole toolkit of things that you can now choose from, either to help yourself create an individualized eating plan, or for a client that you may be working with in the future. and that, you know, everything we learn in the class plus the things that you learn in your other classes are all going into this toolkit. So by the time you get to the end, you have all these wonderful things that you can use, pick and choose from, to individualize for people. And that's really all what it's all about. It's about bio-individuality. There is no one size fits all approach for anyone.
Yeah.
Everyone has something different. I always explain that to my students because I work with a lot of clients privately, and I could have two women, same age, maybe even same ethnicity, both have something like arthritis, but I will not recommend the exact same things for each of them, because there are going to be things that are different about each of those people. Yeah. There are some commonalities that can be helpful, but yeah, we've got to learn it all.
Specific to that question though, that mindful class, there's a lot of things that you can do for somebody with nutrition in the mind, right? So CoQ10 and making sure you're getting good oils and live food, right? Because there's so much good in color. So if you're eating a lot of meat, you're not getting any fiber, and fiber is super important, right? So it's, again, looking at all of it, not just one piece. And paleo is like here, just like each of the, right? And so for a temporary, I mean, even for cancer, for a temporary, it has shrunk tumors for some people. Is it a lifestyle? Can you sustain it? That's the question. Right. Is it sustainable? If
so
the
for people who don't know what keto is, can you help them understand what keto is and is not?
Yeah, so keto is short for ketogenic. And so basically in your body, you have two ways that your body can burn energy. You can burn energy from carbohydrates that you take in through your diet, and your body will prefer to burn carbohydrates as long as you're eating them. But if you reduce the intake of carbohydrates, then your body is forced to draw on stored fat for the energy that it needs to fuel the body's cells. So, and that process is called, when you take, stored fat from fat cells and reconvert it back into an energy source, it converts it into something called ketones. And then the ketones are used by the cells in place of a carbohydrate. So the body can run on ketones. There's basically two types of cells that can't run on ketones. The liver cells can't run on ketones, and neither can the red blood cells. So you have to have at least a little bit of carbohydrate coming in. So the ketogenic diet drops carbohydrate intake down to like 20 grams a day. Sometimes it goes that low. There seems to be a range and different ways to do ketogenic diets. But then the majority of all of the rest of the calories that come in are coming from protein and fats. And so you basically live on fats, protein, and then the stored fat in the body for energy. People use the ketogenic diet as a way to lose weight, because if you're not taking in carbohydrate, then your body has to use the stored fat for the energy, and that's how you burn it off. So it works really well for that in the short term, but like Janet said, we don't know this is an evolutionary backup system in our body. It's what our bodies relied on in the caveman days when we were in famine mode. So, we would eat seasonally. So during the, abundant months, there's a lot of food available. People would eat and maybe store a little bit away in their fat cells. For the lean times, during, times when there was no food, then they could draw off of that. And it was basically just like a check and balance system. But to live in that ketogenic state for years, that's something that we just don't know how it's going to affect people and whether it's sustainable.
And we had a really good question from someone on the webinar. Eileen Whipple says, one of my challenges is breakfast. What are choices more than oatmeal, eggs, and cereal? I want to feel full and have energy for the day.
So each one of those can maybe just be, up leveled a little bit. So when I have steel cut oatmeal, I steam mine. I add nut butter to it with lots of fruit, and I might sprinkle, I don't know, seeds or nuts or something on it. So just for that nut butter really sustains me. So I feel full and it kind of stays even. If I don't do the nut butter, I've experimented, I don't feel like it's going to stay with me very long. I'm hungry, hour and a half later, 2 hours later. So you might look at the fats, some healthy fats, get a nut butter that is, doesn't have anything extra in it. no extra sugars or things like that. With the eggs, you can add, avocado and lots of veggies.
Lots of vegetables,
I mean,
yeah.
lots of vegetables. It's almost like it's a vegetable with, we have some eggs to hold it together kind of concept, just so you have a visual. And what was the other?
Cereal.
Cereal. So cereal, you got to be careful with cereal. I have a little red flag on cereal because they're high in sugar. Usually they don't really give you much bang for the buck. You want something that's really gonna sustain you. So looking for maybe switching to even like a quinoa breakfast. Quinoa can be, savory quinoa, something like that. Do you guys have any other ideas?
I was just thinking of avocado toast. That's pretty popular right now. So getting a good healthy bread and loading it up with avocados, maybe a little bit of oil added to that, and sea salt, lemon juice, garlic, whatever you want. But that's delicious and that's sustaining because you're getting some really good healthy fats from the avocado.
You could even, I was even thinking you could have a whole grain toast with some hummus and avocado slices on top of it. Yeah. So that will even give you more of a feeling of fullness. And I was going to mention, you mentioned quinoa. A lot of times I always ask people, so what do you like to eat? You don't have to stick with the traditional breakfast foods. If you want to eat vegetables in a quinoa bowl for breakfast, go for it.
Yeah, right.
I had a client one time who loved eating salads for breakfast, especially in the hot months in Arizona.
Yep.
But so you don't, I always say think outside the cereal box.
Right.
Okay. Just do whatever. I have a great one that's great for winter. I call it the sweet potato morning glory. Because the sweet potato is in the morning glory family. It's not actually in a potato family. But anyway, you just bake the sweet potato, push it open so that it comes open, and then dollop some yogurt on top of it and sprinkle some cinnamon and maybe some pecans. That's breakfast right there.
That's
so good.
That sounds really good. You all are making me hungry right now.
That reminded me, there's another really great thing that tastes delicious on a good, healthy grainy bread. And that is mashed up sweet potato and nut butter. Believe it or not, it sounds weird. And the first time I heard of that,
filling though.
And the first time I heard of it, I thought that sounds like a weird combination, but it's delicious. So, spreading like some delicious, just wholesome almond butter on the bread, and then you can bake the sweet potato and just scoop it out, mix it with a little cinnamon if you want, and just put that on top of the nut butter. Try it. It sounds weird, but it's incredible.
Yeah, it does sound.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people don't get enough calories.
Right.
If you're going to have calories, my theory is eat plenty of calories in the morning and lunch and a light dinner.
Yeah.
What happens is that we don't eat enough. I'm just going to have a little something, and we're famished. Remember, if you're breaking the fast, right? Lots happening while we're sleeping. Rest and repair. We got to go clean out the organs. We got a lot to do while we're sleeping. And then we get up and it's like, we got to break that. So this is what I always say, if I'm ready to eat anything in sight for dinner, I have not had enough calories in the day. Would you guys agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So go back. This is part of the planning. Okay, I didn't do so good. What can I do differently? And make small tweaks. So then go back and have a hearty breakfast and have a nice lunch. And then you shouldn't need to feel like you need a full meal. Yes, you're going to eat, but it's probably a way smaller portion. Many times I'll have a smoothie for dinner. I might have an apple with nut butter. I am a happy girl with that. And it totally satisfies me because I've eaten enough. I've had greens all day. I've had fruit. I've had lots of different things. So to have just a really healthy, always organic, and with a healthy nut butter with a little cinnamon, I'm so happy, and it stays with me, and that sustains me all the way until the next day. So you have to experiment. If you're used to eating all the time, you got to graduate slowly. Don't go from 0 to 60 because you won't have success and you'll think you're a failure, and you're absolutely not. So make small changes, make tweaks as you go, and then you'll become much more successful.
Carol and Nani mentioned buckwheat porridge. You mentioned a steel cut oatmeal. What is that exactly, so our audience knows where to get that?
Well, in the raw class in week 1, we do a lot of talking just because we have to lay a lot of foundation, but we do make breakfast. So we make nut milks, so variety of nut milks, because you can make milk out of any nut or seed. It's very exciting.
Okay.
So we do that and flavor them just for fun. But we also make 2 other things, and that's chia porridge or pudding, which is a fabulous breakfast. You make that the night before. In fact, I had it for breakfast this morning. and it expands. Those little baby black chia seeds expand 11 times their size, and they're super powerful. They're high in fiber, high in iron. You get omega-3s with it. I mean, really, the list is quite long.
Yeah.
So that would be, in protein, thank you, that would be a great breakfast to make. And I put fruit and a handful of nuts, and I mean, it's just amazing. Anyway, we make that in class, and we make oatmeal, and it's made out of buckwheat. So the buckwheat you buy organic, like Bob Mills, it looks like little baby tops, buckwheat, right? They look like little baby tops, you know, the kind of triangle. You soak them. The recipe calls that you soak it for 24 hours and you just rinse them halfway. So they're rinsed twice. You rinse them really well. There'll be, you know, kind of some, looks like kind of a gelatinous material coming out through when you're straining it. And then it goes in the food processor. You add some wonderful green apple cinnamon and just a touch of maybe a coconut nectar, which is a low glycemic sweetener. Blend that up, top it with cinnamon and some more chopped apples. Honestly, it's delicious. You can make it the night before, put it in little containers and have that for several mornings, which is part of the planning. What am I going to eat for the week, right? Plan it out. And there are things you can make ahead of time. I steam 2 sweet potatoes a week and I eat them through the week. So there's lots of little tips you can make, but that's the breakfast. Great question, I think.
Yeah, and I know some of us, I mean, as nutrition coaches, we assume people know what organic is and the difference between that and non-organic.
Sure.
So we know when people ask questions about how do I replace cereal and oatmeal and eggs, well, what kind are you buying, right?
Sure.
So can you explain the importance of buying organic?
Well, this is a good question, and there has to be a strategy with it because organic food is expensive. And so, well, how do I know what's the most important thing to buy organic and what is okay to not buy organic? And so we got, one of the things we talk about in our classes is the environmental working groups. They call it the Dirty Dozen Clean 15 list. And they basically, they get laboratory data from the USDA where all these produce items have been tested, and then they just rank them according to how much pesticide residue was left on the fruits and vegetables after they were washed and cleaned. They tested them. So they basically do what you would do when you go to the store or farmer market and buy, you know, apples and broccoli and avocados, and they clean them, wash them, they test them, and then they see how much of the pesticide and herbicide residues are still left. Like, what are you actually eating? And then they just put together a list. So the Dirty Dozen list is the list that they say, this is the top 12 of all of the ones we tested. These ones have the most residue. And right now into 2018, the ones that have the most residue is strawberries. And so, yeah, so,
all the time.
so they say that, you know, strawberries and apples and, you know, berries typically always end up on the Dirty Dozen list because they're so fragile and they absorb a lot of those pesticides. And so if you eat them regularly, they say you're better off buying those organic because you're reducing your exposure to pesticides and herbicides. And why is it important to buy organic? Those pesticides and herbicides, they're designed to be toxic. They, you know, and they have been now linked to so many different health issues, anything from fertility problems to obesity to neurodegenerative problems, Alzheimer's. So, you know, so we're trying to do our best to minimize exposure to those things. So if you eat it all a lot or every day, you might want to opt for the organic version of things like strawberries and apples and other berries. And then on the other flip side of that, they have the Clean 15 list, which is the 15 items at the bottom of the whole list. But they say these actually had like very minimal, almost insignificant residues of pesticides and herbicides, and they're probably safe to eat, not organic. So those, and on that list are things like bananas and avocados and pineapples and mangoes. And I think broccoli used to even be on the list. For whatever reason, cabbages and broccoli do not hold on to pesticides very well. They rinse right off or they don't absorb. So they seem to be pretty safe, non-organic. So let's say you love strawberries and avocados, you buy the strawberries organic and you don't worry so much about the avocados.
You can save money.
Yeah, and you can save money that way. And that list is available at ewg.org.
Oh, that's
Great question.
People are loving this information too. That's great. So, and that's what we go over kind of in the beginning of the program is awareness of our food supply. What are you eating? Like what's in it? Really exploring GMOs.
Yeah.
So that's important.
We cover lots of stuff.
We cover that in our first nutrition class that you take. It's all that about organic and healthy eating and the different, strategies that you can use, the stress and all of that.
It can be pretty shocking and eye-opening for a lot of people because we're growing up, we're programmed to eat a certain way. We're rewarded with food as we grow up. So it's no surprise that we emotionally attach to food. But that's what I love about our program is that we do get to explore all of that upbringing, but then we get to re-empower ourselves to step into the healthy choices.
Absolutely.
What are the healthiest choices that you each made for yourself and your family as you went through this program and as you teach? And you're still evolving, so maybe you have goals that you're trying to achieve too.
Yep.
So, Elise?
I would say for me, I focus a lot more on fruits and vegetables. I remember when I was taking the nutrition program, one of the activities that our instructor had us do, and I don't know if we still do that, but whether it is or not, it's something fun that you can do at home. So he asked us to put together all of the foods that we typically eat in a day or in a couple of days, and then take a picture, or have somebody take a picture of us with our typical food. And then throughout our journey, and I think that class was 10 or 12 weeks at the time, this was a little bit different from what we do now. But towards the end of the class, he asked us to do the same thing and sort of compile all the foods that we're typically eating and then have somebody take a picture of us with our food. It's really cool. So whether you're doing this as part of a class or not, you can have somebody do that in your family or a friend take a picture of you. And not too long ago, I was going through old notebooks and things, and I came across my 2 pictures. And it was really interesting and funny to look at because I remember thinking that the pile of food that I had in the beginning, I thought was really healthy. And throughout my journey in the holistic nutrition program, I learned that a lot of what I was choosing was not. Now, a lot of it just meant that I needed to tweak a little bit of something. And so then the picture that I had towards the end of my program was very different. And I actually looked different too. I was a little bit slimmer. I looked a little bit more glowy, like my skin looked healthier. I looked a little bit more rested. So that's a fun thing to do. So for me, again, I would say I focus a lot more on fruits and vegetables.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. You remind me of so many students that transform during this program.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a beautiful thing. I would say that going through the program in the 200-hour, 2 things. The understanding how important it is to read labels, how you do that, and continuing to do that. So I never pick up anything without this wrist action, right? And I've learned that even though I've done that 500 times, the 501st time could be different. And that's frustrating, I think, for people because companies are bought every minute, right? So I have reliability in company A, but company B bought them out. And when they buy them out, maybe not initially, but within a year's time, that food can change. So that's a really kind of frustrating aspect, but also I like to look at it as very empowering. I can see what's in those foods. And that's why when we have food labeling, I think it's super important that we vote for that. I need to know what's in that food. It's my choice if I want to eat it or not. So that's number 1. And the second, for more personal, is that I have changed a lot through the years. My body changes, my needs have changed. What works for me today is eating 3 meals and no snacks. I'm not 100% on that, but that's when I feel my best. I feel my best when I eat a nutrient-dense food meal, enjoy it, and then I allow my body to utilize those nutrients and get to a point where, you know what, you're empty, you need to eat again. Instead of continually feeding myself where I never feel that emptiness. That's totally related to past experiences, socialization, all of that. You have to identify that. But why do I need to eat constantly? Am I nervous? Am I happy? Am I stressed out? But being more diligent with that, of eating 3 meals, I feel like I'm at my best because then I'm really giving my body what it needs without adding in just to add in because it's there, or hey, I need something to munch on. So that's been my journey.
That's very mindful.
Mhm.
And I'll just toss in a little something with that. One of the tools and one of the big things that we focus on in the mindful eating course here at SWIHA is very early on in the class, we give people a couple of tools to help them become more aware of how their body tells them or what their body tells them when they're hungry. Because a lot of us have gotten away from knowing what my body is saying to me when I'm hungry. My stomach tends to rumble, I can get a little cranky, get a headache, but everybody's different. And because we are so busy in our society, oftentimes people will get hungry, but they ignore it. And when that happens for time and time again, pretty soon the body just kind of shuts down on that. And so what you just said, eating when you're hungry, that's a beautiful comment about being very mindful. We don't have to eat just because the food is there.
Or it's 12 o'clock.
Or it's exactly, it doesn't matter what time it is. And so just, it sounds like you're aware of what your body says to you when you're hungry, you address that, you eat, and then I would imagine too, you know when you're satisfied or full, whatever that means for you. So that's, I would give you an A+ in the conscious eating class right now, Janet.
Yay! And Dee?
Well, okay, so I came from a history of obesity. So I was quite obese when I was younger, all the way up until the age of 30. And so my whole journey into healthful eating started when I realized that diets don't work, and I just really need to start eating whole foods and stop eating all of the processed stuff that I had grown up on eating, like what everybody else eats. And my defining wake-up call moment was, going through chemistry in college and then getting a job as a chemist after I got my degree, realizing that one of the chemicals that I was using in my work, which was to analyze environmental samples for like pollution and herbicides and things, one of the chemicals I used in my work was also on the ingredient list of one of my foods that I ate all the time. And when I had that aha moment, it just kind of made me go, what else is in the food that, and how is this affecting me? And so from there, it literally like changed the course of my life when I started asking those questions. And this was over 25 years ago when I made these changes. So when I, coming into learning more about nutrition, because at that time I was a chemist, I didn't have a nutrition education, but it spawned my interest in it and the passion that I didn't think that I thought I liked chemistry, but then I realized nutrition and chemistry are very related. So then it just was a natural fit for me. But I would say that since I've learned more about nutrition, what I've become more plant-based over the years. I started out on a very balanced way of eating, and I did eat, animal foods like, several times a day. But I gradually, without really planning it, but just as I learned more about food, I gradually started just eating more plant-based. And although I still will eat eggs and yogurt and some poultry, I don't eat it as often. I probably would say now maybe like a couple times a week, as opposed to every day, about 2 times a day that I used to eat that way. So I really, and I feel better. I feel better, plus I feel like I have a less footprint on the planet. Yeah.
So Dee's very humble, but she's also an author. So this is a time for a commercial. Every great show has a commercial, right? So if you have not read The Science of Skinny, I would strongly encourage you to get on Amazon, come to the bookstore here so you can see the new space and get that book. It is really an amazing book. It's a part of our curriculum, and read it many times. It's useful. She's super smart, right? So she takes that and makes it so that we can understand. Thank you, right?
Dee.
So thank you, Dee. And so anyway, that's the plug for the book.
I have read every page of that book, and I have a lot of nutrition textbooks in my personal library because I love books and I love nutrition. However, I can't say that I've read all of them. I can say that I have read your book cover to cover. It is. Right. It's easy to read, it's fun, and it's so informative. It'll blow your mind. It will change things about the way you think.
It's on my bookshelf too.
Yeah.
I took the online program.
Yeah. And there's a recipe book also.
Mhm.
that goes with it.
Yes.
So we have options for the program, which are starting November 26th.
6 is the holistic nutrition start.
Yes, and
Online.
enrollment closes not this Friday, but next Friday, right?
Yeah,
So
just
November
because of the
12th?
holiday, we have to
Right.
move things up. So next Friday is the deadline if you're wanting to take the 755 or the 200 online. And it does start on 11/26, so the Monday right after Thanksgiving.
Right,
Perfect timing.
right, I
Yes,
know,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Jump right in.
Yep.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you'd like to say in comparison to the on-campus versus online education as instructors? So I know
You know,
both
Dee's the
do.
only one of the three of us that does both.
Okay,
I can only speak for being on campus. But I've been a student online,
Me
so I
too.
have that
I love it.
perspective. Yeah.
Mhm.
They're different. It's amazing that we have them, so it fits your needs.
right.
Obviously, the advantages to being online is you can do it anywhere in the world, and we have people all over the continent, which is really exciting. I know personally when I went through it, I thought, oh, I had some apprehension. I've never done an online program. This was like really important to me, and I was a little bit nervous about it, but I got over that really fast. The Canvas platform is very easy to use, very friendly. She's in a master's program and they use the Canvas tool. So it's a good, reliable tool. It's easy. If I can do it, you guys can do it. And what I loved about it is it gave me flexibility.
Yeah.
So during that time, you own your week, Monday to Sunday, Monday to Saturday, Monday to Sunday, and you make it work. It starts fresh each week. And that's how I manage my life. And during that time, it allowed me, because I didn't have to be here in school and sitting here, I could do it on my time. I remember during that whole program, I was in it 14 months, I think I subbed for you 5 times during that time. I would have never been able to do that if I hadn't, been able to manage my time. I also had a gig where I was making some food for a small group that was doing a retreat. I would have never been able to do that side thing without it. So the flexibility is by far the biggest thing in my opinion.
Right.
And I can say from the instructor perspective, because I teach here on the campus quite a few classes during the week, but then I also teach some of those same classes online. And I think depending on the type of a student you are, if you're a person who really needs to be among other people and you want to have an instructor teach you everything and kind of hold your hand and sort of, not to make it sound like it's really easy, but if you want someone there in like real live time, be able to ask questions, that type of thing, then the on-campus may be a better fit. But like Janet said, online, it's all, it's called asynchronistic, which means you have to turn your assignments in by the due dates every week, but you can do it whenever. It can be 3 o'clock in the morning, you can be doing it on your lunch break, however it works for you in your schedule, as long as you get your things in on time. And the only time that anything is ever live is most of the classes have a live webinar every week that is time set by the instructor. But you don't have to be there. It's not required, and it's always recorded, so you can watch it whenever you want. So, and teachers are usually pretty accessible through the Canvas system email. So if you do have questions, everyone's usually very helpful to answer them.
Perfect.
Yeah, what we do really, really well is we create a tribe,
Yeah.
right? We create
Even
a
online, it's a
synchronicity.
tribe.
Yeah,
Absolutely,
Yeah.
On campus.
Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, because you can't do this alone.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So if anyone has questions, you can type them in here. We'll respond to you. And anything else? Last tips or tricks for the holidays
I
for
don't mean
anyone?
to put Elise on the spot, but we have talked about it. I think it would be really awesome if she talked about the difference between being a registered dietitian and a
Yes.
holistic nutrition person.
Great question.
So what we know from the scope of practice is that when you go through these programs, you cannot call yourself a nutritionist. I can call myself holistic nutrition coach, wellness coach, whatever, but you can't put that on there for the reason. But you are a registered dietitian, and we've had great conversations about why you would choose that. What's the difference? And I know many students ask me, and I think they've asked you, what is the difference? Why would I do this? And what are kind of the governing bodies that would do that? So if you wouldn't mind sharing, I'd love that.
Absolutely. I don't
Thank
mind
you.
being put on. And truly, I've gotten asked this question in every class I've taught, so I'm sure students ask you ladies the same thing, because it is confusing. The difference between a registered dietitian and a holistic nutrition coach is simply the education and the scope of practice. So as a registered dietitian, I actually went back when I was in my 30s, I think, and decided I wanted to go at all. I didn't even know I was in my 30s. I tell people I'm 28, so yes. So I went back to school and I got my master's degree in nutrition, and I knew that I wanted to work with patients, meaning I wanted to have a job where I could clinically work with patients in whatever scope of practice I decided to do. So again, the difference is the amount of education, the years of education, and then what you are allowed to do with that when you're finished. So as a registered dietitian, I am able to work clinically with patients in a hospital or any other medical setting, and if need be, I can bill out for my services. So to students, I would say it depends on what you want to do. If you don't want to work with patients, I think that's the easiest way to put it. If you don't want to work specifically in a medical setting and work with patients, then the holistic nutrition program is perfect for you. So it's literally, what do you want to do with it when you're finished is my question. I know over the years I've had some people who started at ASU in the registered dietitian program and realized that really wasn't for them. The thing too that I'll say about a registered dietitian program is it's pretty straightforward looking at the guidelines from the American Dietetic Association. It's not, at least when I went to school, there really was nothing holistic about it. So if your passion and your heart is holistic, you're wanting to share the body, mind, spirit connection and all that includes, then I would say going more the holistic nutrition coach route would be more for you. But for me, having both, it's a beautiful blend because I use a little bit from all of my education and everything that I've learned. So it just depends. The question is, what do you want to do with it when you're finished? And that will tell you which path you should go on. And you can do both. Not at this school, but you can do both in your life. Absolutely. This gives a whole lot of opportunities for people to work in something nutrition related. And oftentimes we have students who are focusing on other types of work that they want to do, maybe massage therapy or life coaching, and they're adding the nutrition program as a piece of it because it all works together. It truly is. If you're working on something spiritually, there's a big piece of nutrition that goes with that. So nutrition works beautifully with any program here at SWIHA. Yeah.
Thank you, Elise.
And I also just wanted to add that our online 755-hour program is approved by the National Association for Nutrition Professionals, NANP, and it qualifies students to sit for a national board exam, which is basically a credential that kind of opens up more opportunities for you. A prospective employer may choose someone who has the board certification over someone who doesn't have it. And so that longer program will qualify you to sit for it. It's not part of the program here. It's basically kind of like, when you go to law school and then you have to take the bar exam. So, you have to study for that separately and get that so you can become, official as a lawyer. With the nutrition, it's a little different. You can still work as in the nutrition field without the board certification, but it just opens up more doors for people, depending on what you want to do with it.
Yeah. Perfect.
Wonderful. Well, anything else like to add before we sign off today?
Just thanks for taking time to watch.
Yes.
We are in our new space, so come check out if you're local.
Yeah.
And,
We have an open house tonight at 6:00. So that's perfect.
Is it tomorrow?
Today. Well, today is at 6:00, and then we have Gifts and Graces tomorrow at 6:00, and then
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
So leave a comment and let us know what you're gonna do, maybe different or up level. This
what
year.
plan do you have for the upcoming
holidays?
holidays? Pretty
Yeah.
nice. What's one thing, two
Right.
things? Let's just start with one thing
Yeah.
that you're willing
Yeah.
to do differently to get through the holidays. And you can always change it, but just start somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's plan for
So
success.
post it and then tag us. You can even just hashtag SWIHA or share it with us in a message so we can
Yeah.
repost your success and
Cool.
hold you up in that new healthy habit you're creating.
Yes.
All right.
Happy
Well, thank
holidays.
you to our nutrition besties.
Nutrition besties
Yes. Bye, everybody. Awesome. Yay.
Wow,
Let me get a picture. Let me get a picture of that.
Yay.
You guys did great.
Arm under there. Yay.
Got it. Y'all are awesome.
So fun.
That was
All
great.
right.
Isn't it?
So
Just-
great.
Continues to, I noticed it when we have lunch, but it really highlights it, how different we are and how beautiful the synergy of that is.
Yeah, it's a good blend.
It's such
Yeah.
a great blend for the students.